Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Heather, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Eagle Eye Networks. I will be your speaker, but I will also introduce our presenters for today. We have Michael Rangel and Thomas Quintanilla that will be our speakers. To give you a little background, for over a decade, Michael Rangel has been selling emerging technology for the past few years and has been dedicated to helping Eagle Eye Networks establish and develop relationships between our authorized resellers and end user customers. And we also have Tomas, who is a key member of our channel development team, helping expand our network of authorized reseller partners and subsequently Eagle Eye Network's presence and support network through North America. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our speakers so they can introduce themselves.
Thank you, Heather. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Michael.
My name is Tomas. And I just wanted to start off by mentioning that, having video surveillance options is always the key. And we're going to talk about the many different options that we're going to have when it comes to video surveillance. Just to give you guys a little bit of a background on Eagle Eye Network. So we were actually founded in 2012 by Dean Draco. He's the former CEO and founder of Barracuda Networks, the cybersecurity company. One of the issues that Dean had while he was at Barracuda was that he had multiple locations and multiple call centers, and they all had video surveillance, and being able to access them on one platform was an issue for him. Eagle Eye Networks was created for the sole purpose of helping out that issue, and we ended up making that a cloud-based platform. We're now number one worldwide in cloud video surveillance with headquarters in Austin, Texas, and offices all over the world. So we want to start off by talking about, what makes us or why should we have video surveillance, and what are the long-term payoffs on video surveillance? Just to talk about a couple of different things, we have many customers come to us with the fact that they have had recent, criminal activity in their area, or they've had vandalism of their business or property, and they want to now go to something that's, going to be able to protect them, and they have as a form of evidence to be able to present that to whoever they may need to. But we also have customers who come to us that are in the business sense, in the retail space, that really want to be able to hold their employees accountable, and they want to be able to tell that see what their employees are up to. Talking from my background experience, I was actually a general manager for a long time, and we had an area in our building that didn't have a camera set up. So our employees knew this, unfortunately. And what they would do is they would go hang around and loiter in the area, and nobody would know what it is they were up to. So what I did as a general manager is, once we hired somebody, I used it as a training, experience to that new hire, and let them know, hey, this is an area that is now protected by a camera. We were able to add a surveillance camera to it, and now we can monitor our employee activity and make sure that they're being productive when they need to.
Yeah, I think to add to that, Tomas, I think nowadays people are using Nest cams and Ring cams, and there's all kinds of videos out there that people are stealing boxes, raccoons are digging into people's trash, etc. And I think those are all I think reasons that people probably didn't foresee. And obviously they were trying to see if someone broke in, or someone was stealing something. But now people are using video surveillance for all kinds of things. You mentioned training. I think that's going to be really important. I know that at previous employers, we were all watching training videos that were recorded on surveillance systems. And another key point here that we have listed is improving the customer experience. And so if you're training somebody the proper way, you can essentially point out things that work or don't work, or the things that they should do properly, and help improve overall experience for customers and employees, right? And for the business in general.
So here are just some of the topics that we're going to be covering today in today's webinar. Some of these are going to be very important to more important to some than others, but some of the questions that I see myself asking, potential clients is, or that they ask me, I'm sorry, is, can we use our existing camera infrastructure? How long am I going to need to store this video for? Or how long do I want to store this video for? Do I foresee adding any more cameras in the future? As as business owners or head of a company, you want to definitely grow and see more growth in your company. So you're trying to add more business, or more cameras to that business to protect that business and all its assets. So and then I think the last question is going to be, will my video be safe and secure? And cybersecurity is going to be a big factor in today's conversation as well.
Yeah, I think these are all maybe things that not everyone has actually thought about, right? Because there's when you look at surveillance systems, they usually give you a lot of specs about the types of cameras and usually a lot of technical jargon and stuff. But really, ultimately, these are things here that you're going to want to consider when you're looking for a new system. So let's talk about the existing options. These are the three primary options that are out there. And if you go to a security integrator, or you go to, even Costco, you'll find some of these, and some you won't. And so let's talk about DVRs. DVRs are, I would say, the older of the three and more traditional type of system. A good analogy is a DVD player. DVR really is only going to be used for a specific monitor in location. The video from the cameras are recording on that device, and you can only view that video on that device itself. Similar to you having a DVD, you can only watch it on that one DVD player on that one television. And then kind of another version of this is an NVR. An NVR, when they were introduced, they allowed better types of cameras, IP cameras, that allow for higher resolution, and also the ability to network it and access the video remotely. So you can usually log in through an application or through a website and kind of dive into your network and view some of that video sometimes. And another key point though here is that the video that you're recording from those cameras is still being stored on site. A third option, this is kind of an emerging option now, is the cloud. And so with the cloud, all of the video processing and management is performed basically by the cloud itself. So all of the video essentially is going to be streamed through a data center. Sometimes there's an on-site device that allows communication between cameras. Sometimes they're camera to cloud directly. But the video's going to be stored off-site in most scenarios. And you can think about this in several ways, but the idea here is that we're relieving a lot of the hardware processing that's required on-site, on-premise, in your business or within your organization. So let's talk a little bit more about the cloud. I think most people here have seen these logos and they're using the services, but I'm not sure if they realize that these are primarily cloud-based services. So the reason for this is, you think of like a company like Facebook. They're a global company with I don't know how many millions of users now. Each user's uploading I don't know how many thousands of photos or hundreds of photos. So Facebook is a cloud-based, using cloud-based technology essentially in order to disseminate information and be able to grant access remotely to millions of users essentially at the same time. So there's other things like Netflix. We use here at Eagle Eye, I think the Netflix analogy is an apt one, because it used to be that you had to have, again, a DVD on a DVD player to view video. Now you can view video from really any internet connected device, which is a pretty big change in how we view movies in our day-to-day lives. I don't know if Tomas, you can think of any other logos that maybe aren't on here that would be another good example.
Sure. Yeah. I think that there are plenty out there, right? I think one of the ones that I use the most is going to be, our banking app. We want to be able to quickly transfer money between accounts, check balances, and monitor charges, and make sure that everything on your account is okay. So just having that banking app, operate through the cloud just allows us to be able to have that as something to use, and instead of having to go to an actual bank and talking to an actual person. So, but another key one that I think is important is our music apps. We have, apps like Spotify, Pandora, and Apple Music that just allow us to easily, travel, move around, and be on the go listening to music at any point in time, and not having to carry something like a Sony Discman around, another piece of outdated hardware that, again, you'll need CDs for, and you'll have to hope that you don't scratch that CD up and all the music's going to sound differently. So there definitely are plenty of options and plenty of cloud-based apps that I think we use that we never realized that were cloud-based apps.
And when you're going from a traditional on-premise system to a cloud-based system, there's some inherent advantages. So we'll touch on cybersecurity for a minute here. If you're using a standard DVR NVR, one of the most obvious problems that you might run into is if something happens to that device, you're losing all of the video in some cases, right? Especially if it's a total loss, there's a disaster or someone steals it, right? So that's a problem. And I'm sure most of the people on here have some type of smartphone, and hopefully they're backing their phone up. If you back it up to your computer, then that's great. But if something happens to your computer, then you're kind of out of luck again. So this is kind of the same problem you have with DVRs and NVRs. But furthermore, if you have a network video recorder and it's not set up properly, you're also exposing your entire network to vulnerabilities. So if it's not set up correctly, sometimes you can have people either externally or through backdoors and cameras access information that you don't want them to get a hold of. And I think there was a story a few years ago, right, with Target. Target had this, they had to disclose that they've lost millions of users' sensitive information because someone was able to access their network through an HVAC system that just wasn't secure enough. And so, these are things that you need to consider when you're talking about purchasing a surveillance system for your business, because it's not just, can someone see my video, but can they also get access to sensitive information that I'm worried about them getting access to. And then on top of that, you've got to maintain these devices. You release firmware and they release software updates, security patches. So you've got to stay on top of that. And if you're not, you never know, there could be some type of malware that gets into your platform, and then you kind of fall victim to a target type situation. One of the things that we're doing at Eagle Eye is we manufacture and design we call it a gateway to the cloud, or a conduit to the cloud. This is called a bridge. And bridges are unique because it's kind of a traffic cop between the cameras and the internet. These only communicate with our cloud, and essentially what we're doing is also encrypting video at the bridge, buffering it in case the internet were to go down. We're still going to record onto those devices and then send that video back up into the cloud once the internet is reestablished. And furthermore, we're constantly updating everything on the back end. So anytime you log in, you're essentially getting the most up-to-date and secure version of our system. So the cloud really is the answer to our cybersecurity challenges. And as you scale, let's say you're a business owner and you're a franchisee and you've got multiple locations, or maybe just multiple organizations that you're managing. As you scale, so does the complexity of your systems. And multiple locations means you most likely have multiple users, which means you have multiple credentials. You've got to maintain multiple systems and update them and make sure that the right people have access, and that you're essentially just maintaining more and more devices. So by moving to the cloud, all of everything that I just mentioned, essentially credentials, users, maintenance, all that stuff is centralized, and it's essentially done in the back end without you having to worry about it. This is very similar to, say, the banking analogy that Tomas used. You don't really have to worry about any of the cybersecurity, because your bank is taking care of that in the back end. So this is really inherent with cloud technology, being able to scale large organizations, but still with cybersecurity in mind. And so there's also different options when it comes to video storage, right? We talked about DVRs, NVRs, and the cloud. And essentially with the traditional system, you can store on site. And if you wanted to maybe increase resolution or add more cameras, you then have to purchase additional hardware. And sometimes that means you've got to calculate several factors basically. And in some cases, there's mandates, right? If you're within the government, or if you're the cannabis industry is notorious for having mandated offsite storage. It's really difficult to do and manage on your own, especially if you're a company just getting started, having to manage your own servers and all the other work that goes into that. And using the cloud approach, you basically have the flexibility of both. So at Eagle Eye, the bridges that we have and the cloud managed video recorders that we have allow you to buffer video on site in case of internet outage, for example, or maybe you want to store locally for an extended period of time, or do both. You want to store video in the cloud and on site. And so we do allow for both of those. And furthermore, you can increase the resolution or retention without having to modify the hardware. So if you wanted to increase the amount of time that you store, the video that covers the camera covers your safe, and you decide, a couple months in that, 1 week is actually not enough time, I'm kind of worried about this, you can change that really just with the drop down click of a button on the platform.
Yeah, so I strongly believe that, when we're deciding what kind of video surveillance platform we're going to use, camera types is a big question that we're going to have, and what system is compatible with what camera type. So as we have some of them listed here, we do have a couple options to choose from. We have some analog cameras, some IP cameras, some high definition over coax that give us an option and flexibility to be able to choose what system we're going to use. So some cons, on the analog side, we have the cameras are a little bit more affordable and easier to use. But the cons are that we're going to have issues with quality on the image. We're not going to get the best quality image that we need. And nowadays, with an IP camera, as you see here, we have, IP cameras that can handle higher resolutions, give you a better quality image. And even better, some of these have some analytics that we or that you guys as business owners can take full advantage of, or in some situations, schools also can take advantage of counting how many people are coming in and out of the building. But some of the cons on these are they do have a higher initial cost sometimes, and they do require higher bandwidth requirements on them as well. And then we go over to the high definition over coax, and this is an option that kind of helps you make a decision on to save money, because you're going to be able to utilize existing infrastructure and cabling. The only thing is that you're going to have some cons that are going to be on this is that you're not going to have a lot of access to analytics. And the configurations can take some time. So we do have, various options as listed here. Just some come with different options than others. And
yeah, sometimes you don't realize that there's thousands of cameras out there, right? So that's one thing that you got to really look into is, what cabling do I even need to use this type of camera, or is it a good camera to begin with, right?
Yeah, and I think that being a hybrid system here in our system at Eagle Eye just allows us to be able to use any of these three options here, and it makes that easier for anyone to kind of decide.
So yeah, I think that's a good segue, because there's different platforms when you're looking for a system. Okay, so we've got Costco and Axis, and obviously there's thousands of different types of cameras out there and different brands. But primarily, when you're trying to connect those cameras, what you're going to want to look into is the platform that I'm connecting this to closed or open? And a closed platform, a lot of times seems appealing because it's usually in one box, it's one company, and I can, kind of plug and play and kind of be done with it. However, the problem with a closed platform is in the future, if you wanted to use maybe a specific type of camera, maybe someone, a friend of yours showed you a cool thermal camera or something, or a zoom, high quality zoom camera that you want, but the company that you bought that had give you that kind of boxed option doesn't have that type of camera, you won't be able to just add another camera to that system. And furthermore, if you're trying to scale, having to use a closed platform can be more expensive, especially if you wanted to change systems later and those cameras only work with that one system.
Yeah, and having an open platform, such as Eagle Eye, just kind of allows you to, again, use existing camera infrastructure, but we don't require proprietary equipment, and a lot of cloud services don't require proprietary equipment. This just kind of helps us, you know, be a true fighter in the surveillance industry and say, hey, we want to try and save you as a customer as much as we can on the upfront cost of any hardware that you're spending. So using these existing cameras that you already have in place just kind of helps you with any expenses that you might have to make going forward. So let's talk about scalability. So, Michael mentioned earlier, and one of the key questions that we would ask ourselves is, where is my company? Where's my business? Where are we going in down the road, 2 months, 6 months down the road? And, with a traditional system, it makes it a little bit harder for you to be able to plan on that. You have set systems with set camera inputs and hard drive space that kind of doesn't allow us to scale up. One of the things that I see a lot of customers do is they end up buying a lot more storage than necessary, and then unfortunately they don't use that storage, so they're paying for something that they don't need. With an option like the Cloud VMS, this kind of just allows you to plan on, of course, we're planning on our businesses to grow or our organizations to grow, and we can continue to add cameras, and on a per camera basis, we can pick and choose what retentions we want. So you're not paying for unnecessary storage, you're paying for what you need and what you're going to use.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think just to kind of touch on that, I'm also a photographer, and I always have to back up my photos, and you're essentially going to have to, like in my scenario, I've got to buy new hard drives every time I want to get more space to add more photos. And eventually those hard drives are going to fail, and I've got to keep buying additional hardware. Where if you're backing everything up into the cloud, I mean, you just like Dropbox. If we have any Dropbox users, Dropbox allows you to just add on additional storage. You pay a different price. That's way easier, way more flexible, and way more scalable. So I think another really important question that we need to consider is, how am I going to access and view the live or recorded video streams on my system? And some of you might know you don't have remote access on every system out there. The traditional systems, say DVRs as an example, I mean, they're not designed for remote access. Networked video recorders can be accessed remotely, but it takes a lot more than just setting it up and then hitting I want remote access. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it, and if you're not going to be on site, viewing this 24/7, you're probably going to want to be able to access this remotely at some point. And with the traditional system, the video quality streams can be unpredictable or choppy, or the image isn't actually what you want it to be, because again, it's not really designed for you to be able to stream it from that local device through the internet to your phone. Whereas a cloud system is basically specifically architected and designed for remote access. So again, back to the Netflix or YouTube analogy, I mean, that's exactly why they built their platform the way they did, is because they expected people to view and remotely access the platform via their accounts remotely through their application or through the web. And if you don't have somebody there, 24/7, you can still have it set up where you can get alerts, you can view that information remotely, at any time of the day if you wanted to, just about anywhere. So there's a huge difference when you're considering a system when it comes to what how remotely. So let's recap some of these points. These are really the top factors that are driving the acceleration of cloud adoption, and I think a lot of this really is just inherent with cloud technology. And we've talked about different services and brands that we know and use. So a few of these, we have listed here. Cost savings. I think this is actually something that you might not consider when you're, say, if you want to build a server, right, for your business. There's a lot of money that goes into maintaining that and licensing, and so having somebody host and manage it is actually going to be less expensive in the long run. Security is obviously going to be of huge importance. So who can access the system? Are there any vulnerabilities in my network? When I'm trying to install this or set this up, remote maintenance. So how am I going to maintain this system? If you're going to the cloud, a lot of that stuff is just done in the background for you. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and I think having flexible retention is huge. Again, you're paying for what you use. You're able to then change cameras to what retentions you want set on each individual camera with a cloud service. It just makes that easier for you, and not having to have somebody come out on site and have to mess with it, or change hard drives, or put more storage on your on site and add more equipment on site. So just having that cloud option makes it more flexible for you. And again, scalability, being able to add more cameras as needed. And as your organization and your business grows, you can continue to scale and add those cameras as needed without having to buy everything ahead of time. And again, having hardware just sitting there and wait until you're about to scale up or add more cameras as well.
I think another thing that we haven't really talked about is the increased stability. Again, with these cloud services that we're used to, they're always online and ready to be used whenever you're ready to use them. And that's the same thing with the Eagle Eye platform. So we want to stay logged in, or if we want to come back and log in later on, then we know that the service is always going to be there regardless of whether or not we're actually logged in at that time. And then I think one of the most important things is your video is important. You want to be able to view it whenever you need it, and if there's ever an event, you want to be able to recover that video. And if it's stored on site, I mean, that's again one of the inherent kind of flaws or detriments of a traditional platform, is not being able to recover that footage if it's not stored somewhere else. And you can have it backed up on 5, 6, 7 hard drives, but most of us are going to keep that in our desks, and if a building burns down, you're kind of out of luck. So I think disaster recovery is definitely one of the key reasons why cloud adoption is going to be more important moving forward. So I think that covers it, right? So thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope this was educational and informative for you. We appreciate your time. We're all busy, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Heather now. I think we've got a quick Q&A.
Hello. Yes, thank you all. We're at the end of our presentation at this time, so I'm going to take a couple questions and throw it to our presenters. Our first question is, can I purchase from Eagle Eye directly?
Good question. Tomas, you want to, being on the channel team, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. So, here at Eagle Eye, we only go to market directly through our certified channel partners, and we want to make sure that, who we have on board is going to know exactly what they're doing when they're doing installations. So we always have end users that we recommend resellers to and our partners to, that way they can, get out there and do the installations and have a more personal relationship with them, as well as not only with them, but with us as well. So you can purchase Eagle Eye through our certified channel partners.
All right, thank you for that. Second question, does Eagle Eye integrate with any other products?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess we didn't really even talk about integrations. So yeah, I think one of the benefits of, again, I think cloud technology in general, but Eagle Eye specifically, is that everything that we've built is on an open API platform, which really means that we can integrate with other software, and we do have some current integrations. This is probably on our website under solutions, I think, but we do integrate with access control, one of our sister companies, Brevo, another company, Swift Sensors. We integrate with DMP alarms. There's a long list, and this list will continue to grow as more and more companies, it makes sense basically for us to partner with one another and integrate our video with their products. So good question.
All right, those are going to be all the questions we are going to be taking for today. Thank you for staying with us till the end of the webinar. If you have any questions that we didn't get to answer, that's the perfect opportunity for you to reach out to us. So let's connect, send us an email or give us a call so that we can go more in depth about all the features that Eagle Eye Networks has to offer. Also, you want to check your email. Tomorrow, you will see an email from us, and it will have the recording of this webinar as well as some further reading material on the subject. Thank you so much to our presenters today and everyone for participating. We look forward to hearing from you.